Hey, welcome to the HCRP studio. I'm your host, Vlad Davidiuk. I work here at the Harris County GOP as the Director of Communications. I'm joined today in the studio by our Harris County District Clerk, Chris Daniel. Chris, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Chris is obviously campaigning for another term to be our district clerk. He is opposed in the 2018 election, and he's running to keep his job by appealing directly to voters. He's participated in lots of block walks, helped with getting word on the phone banks and our other election activities around town. He's also been actively involved in all of our satellite offices that we have across Harris County. We encourage all activists and precinct chairs who are interested in helping our Republican candidates get elected. Please look at our calendar at harriscountygop.com. It gives you an opportunity to find an opportunity where you can help get our candidates elected. Go to our website and look at the calendar. There's events listed there on a daily basis that are great for the weekend and will help you give your effort to get people like Chris reelected. So Chris, you are running for reelection. This is going to be your second term, your third term?
Third term in this office.
Okay.
But most of our audience members may have forgotten that I once was elected to the board for Lone Star College System.
Yeah.
So I've been in office for almost 12 years.
Yeah. One thing is, I remember that you started out as a young elected official.
You bet.
And because you wanted to take an active role in how you were addressing the issues that our communities face. And you took that same spirit of that same passion into the district clerk's office.
Correct.
And you've been a very innovative leader in terms of how you address things there.
Well, exactly. My background is an engineer, mechanical engineering from the University of Texas, and I'm also a lawyer from South Texas College of Law. And every office that I've taken on, we've focused on technology, because technology is not only the future, but is one of the best ways to save taxpayer money in finding those innovations to get quicker, better, faster service. Yeah. Whether it's electronic textbooks at Lone Star College, or the myriad of things that we have done at the Harris County District Clerk's Office, including electronic subpoenas, soon to be electronic warrants, soon to be electronic jury check-in, soon to be electronic jury notifications, and the ability that you already have to reschedule your jury service online, the myriad of tools that the attorneys have, including the ability to file electronically, view your documents electronically, and oh, by the way, now within the coming weeks, serve the other side electronically.
Yeah. One thing that I saw recently on social media, some of your supporters are even pointing this out, that your opponent's actually talking about implementing these great new ideas that suddenly emerged out of nowhere, where they're a list of things that you've already either started working on or
Correct.
things that you've introduced.
I laughed about that because, for example, on e-resets and in e-settings, we're already piloting that in Judge David Farr's court.
Yeah.
And David Farr has been an innovative forward thinker amongst the judges himself,
yeah,
because of his military background and the things that he was able to accomplish outside of the box when he was serving on the ground in
he brought
Kosovo
that with
and Iraq.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's been your approach? What's driven that spirit of innovation that you've brought to the office?
Puzzles and the ability to solve problems. So when you go to college as a lawyer, you are basically buying the mindset of a lawyer. That's the whole purpose of the Socratic method when you watch the movie The Paper Chase or anything like that.
Okay.
When you are doing engineering, you're buying that engineering mindset, how to think outside the box, how to not just say, geez, there's a problem, but instead take that problem by the horns and flip it. And so, for example, during Harvey, we had many issues that the county as a whole was facing, including several public officials who hadn't practiced their disaster plan and were not following protocol. Well, that's fine. We have to just steer the ship and get people right side up and do what we know best while thinking of solutions outside the box. And an example of that is how we were able to right side up on the courts and make sure that the justice system was literally staying afloat during the middle of the storm. And what most public don't realize is that through all of that, because of the technology we pushed into the courthouse, we never once went down with e-filing. We never once went down as far as our database. You were able to search our records in the middle of the storm. And while jury duty was obviously canceled, if you wanted to, you could still reschedule in the middle of the storm.
There you go. So even in spite of all those challenges, you're able to pull through because of those the changes that you'd put in place.
Exactly.
Actually made the system much more flexible, much more responsive, much more able to recover
Exactly.
from the damage.
Exactly.
Like I said, Chris is running for re-election. If you're interested in helping out on his campaign, if you're interested in donating to him, please go to his website. It's chrisdaniel.org.
Correct.
And you can see there where his donations can go. You can also look at his bio and a little bit more about who he is as a person. You can also read his vision for what he wants to continue to do as your district clerk. Chris, I'm a little concerned at how Republicans may not really be aware of the importance of the district clerk's office. It's one of those offices that's a little bit under the radar because a lot of people get focused on, the race between Cruz and Beto, or between Abbott and who's he running against? Some Democrat. So you get these top of the ballot races that kind of suck up all the oxygen.
Correct.
And sometimes races like yours, district clerk, which is a very important position for county residents, kind of flies under the radar.
Let's put it into an analogy. When you watch football, everybody pays attention to the quarterback and to even the coaches of the teams. Nobody really pays attention to the refs until they get the calls wrong.
Exactly.
Think of us as part of the refs of the football team. We're necessary, we're not the focus, but we're necessary for the game to even be played possible.
Okay.
And not until a bad call is made, like Serena or Vanessa Williams found out, do the refs suddenly take attention.
Yeah.
So most people don't even think about who the district clerk is, much less that they have a district clerk as opposed to a county clerk. And they don't even worry about it until they A, suddenly get jury duty, or B, have to go to court for a myriad of reasons.
Right.
And they can be good reasons, they can be bad reasons, they can be everything in between. Because we handle over 90% of all the courts in Harris County.
So what's at risk? What's at risk if if people elect a Democrat?
Here's at risk. You are putting somebody in place who was courting the Socialist Party to...
What?
Yes. To basically put in policies and procedures that would be detrimental to the taxpayers. As an example, one of the things that had occurred under previous administrations was a de-emphasizing of the enforcement of filings by pauper's oath. What I mean is if Vlad decides to say, hey, I'm poor, I need to have free filings and free copies and free everything else, under previous administrations, he was not even being scrutinized. As long as he swore an oath saying, hey, I'm poor, that was it. No check, no verification, no nothing. So one of the first things that we did is we said, no, we're going to bring in the county attorney, and if you're driving up in a fancy Cadillac and you're wearing that Rolex and you have clearly a $10,000 suit on or something ridiculous, we're going to challenge whether or not you say you're poor. And the county attorney would then have a hearing before the judge to hold the feet to the fire. Now, as policies have changed and as the rules have changed, thanks to legislation, the Texas Supreme Court, and the county attorney, that is no longer being enforced. And one of the things that you see exponentially happening is a huge increase of people suddenly poor and a huge decrease in people actually paying court costs, fines, and fees, costing the county millions on an annual basis. That's just one example of what happens when you have somebody introducing a socialist policy into an office that clearly should be non-political. We should be about as political as a stoplight. And unfortunately, when you have folks in there that try to introduce policy that is clearly anti-taxpayer, anti-citizen, you're going to get squirrely, oddball ideas like, oh, let's just take them at their word for it that they say they're poor. If they say they're poor, they say they're poor.
Kind of the way they want to run
give
elections.
Away the kitchen sink.
It's kind of the way they want to run elections, where anyone can show up and say, yes, I'm
Vlad. Today I'm Vlad. Tomorrow I'm going to be Sophia. And the next day after that, I might actually use my real name and vote. Yeah. And 3 votes for the Democrats.
Yeah. It's that seems to be the governing principle that they have, which is whatever it takes to accomplish that goal, the law, doesn't matter, and maintaining the rule of law is inconsequential.
Exactly. And let's take up jury duty. See, I was talking about court filings there for a second. Now let's talk about jury duty. In the Democrat primary, it came up consistently that they said that there was not enough folks of various backgrounds serving on jury duty. Well, there are ways to go about making sure that you have a representative jury for the particular case at hand. It's called a Batson challenge, as well as the ability for other agencies to help step up and enforce that people are serving on jury. Okay. More on that later. The point is that they specifically said that we were going to categorically quantify how many of what type of folks are going to serve on a jury. And last time I checked, that goes directly against the U.S. Constitution. Everything
they
that
want
the
to have
fathers,
quotas on juries.
Quotas on juries.
Wow, that's completely contrary to the spirit of
the U.S. Constitution.
Not only the Constitution, but the spirit of equal justice under the law, due process, that sort of thing.
There's a
ridiculous.
reason why jury duty is completely random. There's a reason why that Vlad doesn't get picked once a week to serve on a professional jury as picked by the King of England.
Right.
Instead, we have a completely random selection process for all of Harris County to make sure that there's never a runaway jury, that there's never a chance at somebody seating the jury in favor of one side or the other.
And recently you introduced new jury duty roles that were updated for this year, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So every time we start to run out of names in the database, we reset the database.
Okay.
And that again is to make sure not only that the database is fresh, but that everybody has an equal opportunity chance to serve, regardless of where they live in Harris County.
Okay. That's very important. Again, we're speaking with Chris Daniel. He's running for re-election as a Harris County District Clerk. You can go to his website, chrisdaniel.org, and you can sign up to volunteer with him, help out his campaign, offer a donation. You can learn more about him on that page. Additionally, I want to encourage everyone to follow us on our social media pages and look into what we offer as a Harris County GOP. You can go to our website. You can go to our Twitter account, Facebook page, our YouTube channel. All of those are available on a daily basis, where new content is always going to be posted and updates are always available. Chris, one thing that I've heard a lot about is that the challenge we face as Republicans, especially candidates like you who are elected officials, is that the Democrats are more enthusiastic. The Democrats have better candidates. That the Democrats have more money. What have you encountered during your campaign?
So what I've encountered is that it's a false enthusiasm, and that while we cannot take for granted the phenomena of veto lightly, in general, the Democratic base is not as enthusiastic as they were when Donald Trump first got elected. And the reason why is that the general public sees the truth of the matter, of the tax cuts, of the amount of jobs now available, of the skyrocketing markets that are occurring that everybody is benefiting from. And so that enthusiasm is sucked out by everybody prospering. And
right.
As more people prosper, the more they go, well, do we really need to rock the boat and change anything?
There's nothing sustaining their narrative.
Correct. And at the end of the day, what I find is that we have the better qualified candidates. We have the candidates that take the initiative and are willing to follow the law and willing to show up to work and willing to do what's right, especially when things get rough in like a storm like Harvey.
Yeah.
And about the best example I can give for that for just the public, again, giving a shout out to Judge David Farr. We had a situation where the presiding judge of all Harris County was not answering the phone to close the courthouse and canceled everything that goes on at the courthouse. So we needed his signature, so to speak, to close everything down. And David Farr took the initiative to walk in the floodwaters from his neighborhood over to that neighborhood to make sure that he could get the approval to actually close the courthouse from this presiding judge. That's the kind of initiative that you don't see on the Democrat side. You might see it on some of the law enforcement aspects, but in general, not from their judges, not from their state reps, not from their base. You see it from Republicans because that's the Texan thing to do, to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and do what's right. And don't take my word for it. Take their own word for it. There's a poll called the Houston Bar Association Judicial Preference Poll, where the lawyers actually vote on who they think are the best judges. that poll is generally dominated by Democrat-leaning lawyers by their voter history, by their primary voter history, and by their own poll, preference poll. They're saying that these candidates that they elected in 2016 are in general, with one exception, junk. And that in general, the Republican judges are doing the best job. Again, don't take my word for it. Take the Democrats' word for it.
Yeah.
They know better. They know that their slate of candidates in general is less than above par, and that they know that if they really want things to stay stable and prospering, that you need to have Republicans in office.
Yeah. I know that we have an extensive field of great candidates on the Republican side. Yeah. If you want to learn more about our Republican candidates, go to republicanjudges.com. It's a new website we just launched the other day, republicanjudges.com, and you'll have an opportunity to scroll through that, and it lists every single Republican candidate who's running for a judicial bench in Harris County. We have them listed from the Supreme Court all the way down to Justice of the Peace. More than 75 candidates listed on there, and you can read about their extensive records, link to their websites, and find out more about them.
Vlad, didn't we set the Guinness Book of World Records one year for one of the longest polls of candidates in North America?
I believe so. I believe, as I understand, the ballot in Harris County this year is the longest ballot in America.
Yeah.
Because you have an opportunity to elect
everything under the sun, including propositions.
Yeah, not just that, but you have every single judge who's running has to answer to the voters directly.
Correct.
And so it creates a dynamic and an incentive on the voters to get educated, to learn more about these judges, to do their research, and to select the judges that represent their values and who are qualified and have those skills that they're looking for. Chris, let's talk a little bit about what you anticipate between now and election beginning. We're about 34 days away from early voting beginning. So it's like, it's there, it's on the cusp.
Everybody's now in frenzy mode.
Yeah.
And for example, this past Saturday, I not only had a kickoff at the Jersey Village office, a block walk, a parade, the Fiestas Patrias parade downtown in Houston,
Oh, yeah, that's
a
good.
candidate forum hosted by the Delta Sigma Theta sorority over at Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church, and a radio show appearance on KPRC. The point is that you're going to see candidates more and more and more in a frenzy as they realize that time is running out. Time is running out to get your signs up. Time is running out to knock on a door and turn at least one voter's opinion. And time is running out to help the entire ticket. Because as we help the entire ticket, we've got to encourage everybody to vote all the way down the ballot.
All the way to the bottom.
All the way to the bottom, including the propositions, regardless of how you feel about them. Time is running out to sway people's opinions all the way up through early voting.
Yeah. Every single voter in Harris County has the responsibility, but also the opportunity to go and look at every single one of these candidates, every single one of these propositions,
Correct.
and make an informed decision.
Correct.
I know that we're running up towards the end of this broadcast opportunity. Again, if you're interested in any questions or any comments you want to have, please send them to us. We'll try to see if we can get those answered while we're on the air. This is an opportunity for Harris County voters to make a statement on what they expect from their leaders in Harris County. Do you want to elect someone who has shown an ability to innovate, an ability to bring integrity to an office that is very critical for the function of our county? Or do you want to take a risk on putting that aside? The choice is very clear, really, in terms of how we do things. Chris mentioned earlier that Democrats are now running candidates who are openly socialists, who actually declare themselves as socialists, and they just happen to be running under the Democrat banner. So the risk that Harris County voters face is, do they select someone who deliberately and willfully chooses to align themselves with the cause of socialism, or did they choose someone who's going to maintain a level of integrity and a level of responsiveness that Harris County voters deserve? One thing that I wanted to talk to you about, Chris, is you gained some massive amounts of respect during Hurricane Harvey because of your response and because of your initiative and the role that you played. I mean, certainly you, along with Judge Emmett, the members of Commissioner's Court, um, Commissioner Cagle, Commissioner Mormon, Commissioner Raddick, each of you played a huge role.
We all
there's
had our
that
part to play.
there's that one image of you
Yeah.
using a huge hose to drain out.
Our unnecessary swimming pool downtown. The
Yeah.
jury assembly building took on 11 feet of water.
Yeah.
And we tried to get it pumped out and cleared out right away, but once we got the water out, we saw how extensive the damage was.
Yeah.
And we had to turn it over to the county engineering department at that point. We hope to be reopened this coming spring. And they found the source of the flood, which was a electrical vault that didn't have any flood doors on it, because our flood doors worked too well and created this unnecessary swimming pool, but fortunately saved the rest of the surrounding buildings from taking on water. But at the end of the day, you need that forward thinking. For example, did you know that we do passports at the district clerk's office?
I did
And
not
when
know
our
that.
various offices that did passports flooded, like the courthouse for Jeff Williams on the west side or for Lincoln Goodwin on the northwest side, we were able to move forward with a, quote, road show where we could bring the passport operation to businesses, chambers of commerce, Rotary clubs
That's
across
helpful.
the county
That's
so
really
that we could continue to serve you.
Okay. Actually, I need to get my passport renewed. That brings up a very good point. Chris, what's as we close, what's your vision for this upcoming term? I'm assuming you get reelected, which I'm confident you will, because I think Harris County voters value the service that you've provided. What's your vision for the next term that you're going to be serving?
The vision is to continue to innovate with jury duty as a
Okay.
whole. One of the secrets that we were working on is a electronic way of paying you for your jury service, also with prepaid debit cards. We decided against doing cash because we have to do this with conjunction with the treasurer's office, and they don't want to have the risk of having that much cash
That would be a
down
problem.
there. We want to continue to innovate with the courts in general. We're not finished with working with the DA's office to make all of criminal courts electronic, including the charging instruments. As the Supreme Court continues to mandate different parts of filings becoming electronic, we envision juvenile eventually becoming electronic completely, and we envision also ways of having a kind of remote court, if you will, depending on how the judges want to handle that. We're always thinking outside the box to find solutions so that the judges can have a faster, easier, better docket. Because when justice is delayed, justice is denied, and your Harris County Republican judges are doing their darn best to make sure that technology is put in, including electronic signatures, to make it easier, faster, better for you.
As we close, talk a little bit about where voters can meet with you this weekend. I know you're going to be always involved in field activities, block walking, and other events. What's coming up this weekend?
I defer.
Also the 22nd, this Saturday, is the campaign kickoff for the Harris
Correct.
County Republican Party.
Correct.
We're going to have tons of candidates there, so that's definitely one place. Where else can we
betcha.
see you?
Well, if you follow the website, Donna Stannard, who does a fantastic job of organizing
Shout out
all
to
the
Donna.
candidates to be at the various field offices to spearhead block walking, she'll have me on the list. I think it's going to be in Baytown, but don't hold me to that. She'll have me on the list at one of the field offices near you so that we can walk together. And I'll usually bring one of my kids with me, and we'll go walk, we'll knock on some doors and hang some push cards, and we'll have a good darn time making sure that we get out the vote and vote all the way down the ballot for Republicans.
There you go. I can't wrap it up better than that. Again, Chris Daniel is one of the many candidates who's running for re-election this cycle. You can find his website at chrisdaniel.org. There's a donation link there, and also a page where a space where you can sign up to volunteer with his campaign to help him out. All of our Republican candidates need your help this election cycle. Without your help, we won't be able to maintain the governance that you've come to depend upon. Governance of Harris County that has integrity and that is responsive to the citizens. Again, I encourage you to go to our website, harriscountygop.com, and follow us on all of our social media platforms, which are available all the time and feature new content on a daily basis. So let's wrap that up here. Chris Daniel, thank you very much for joining us here on the HCRP studio.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.